I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, think of it as Law and Order version 2.0, the high-tech makeover for San Diego courtrooms and the benefit for taxpayers.
How will San Diego Unified Schools spend unexpected money if Governor Brown's updated budget plan goes through? Plus, U.S. millennials could be the least religious generation in the last 6 decades, says a new study from San Diego. I'm Peggy Pico with why many teens say religion isn't important.
No, I'm not really a video gamer, but I have played it with the grandkids all through the time, but they're not playing anything like this.
And you won't find this title at GameStop: Virtual Reality and the Next Frontier for Patient Care. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Globs of oil have closed off some Southern California beaches. Coast Guard wants to know if it's connected to that oil spill about 100 miles away in Santa Barbara. Cleanup crews collected at least 30 yards of tar balls. They were found 7 miles along the coastline from Manhattan Beach to the waters off Santa Monica Bay. Coast Guard has not found any new tar balls and may open the beaches to the public soon.
If I'm a surfer, I got a lot of friends that are surfers, I would definitely push the pause button until this is straightened out and hopefully back to normal.
Coast Guard says it may take a week or more to actually analyze the oil globs. There's a refinery and offshore oil terminal near the beaches, which also have seen natural oil seepage. The largest auto recall in history is expanding. American automakers are adding millions of cars to the list because of dangerous Takata airbag inflators. Now, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says those inflators can explode when they deploy in a crash, sending shrapnel into the passenger compartment. The recall covers at least 33 million vehicles. These are some of the models added to the list. General Motors added more than 300,000 heavy-duty pickup trucks, and Subaru is adding about 60,000 smaller cars. Following up on the Plaza de Panama project, last night we told you about a court that gave the go-ahead to reroute cars from the middle of Balboa Park. As KPBS reporter Claire Trageser tells us, that doesn't mean the project will actually happen.
A state appeals court says San Diego can build a new bridge that would divert cars from the Plaza de Panama in Balboa Park. But so much time has passed since the plan was struck down that it seems interest has waned. Mayor Kevin Faulconer says city staff are reviewing the court ruling to decide what to do next. City Council President Sherry Leitner says right now there are no plans to revisit the original design. And philanthropist Erwin Jacobs, who would have paid for the plan, says he's also reviewing the court's ruling. He pulled his support from the project after it was initially struck down last year. However, City Attorney spokesman Jerry Braun says there's still a victory to be found in the court's ruling because it sets a precedent for the future. Claire Trageser, KPBS News.
And in the interest of full disclosure, Jacobs is a major funder of KPBS. A San Diego-based international health organization is being recognized for its work. County supervisors designated this as Project Concern International Day. The 54-year-old nonprofit was founded to help the poor in the San Diego-Tijuana border region. The county is highlighting all of its work, from assisting pregnant women to its anti-human trafficking initiative. The group Los Patronos donated a new van to help Project Concern expand its community outreach.
People that don't normally go out and seek access to care, that's who we're seeking to help with the community outreach.
Project Concern International is currently operating in 16 countries, helping more than 6 million people. Bike to Work Day finally had San Diegans pushing their pedals this morning. Fueling stations for cyclists were set up around San Diego, including at this site in 4S Ranch. Some San Diego lawmakers joined the commute. City Councilman Todd Gloria tweeted these photos. And San Diego Zoo rallied riders. Zoo workers had a slew tag along. San Diego Bike Coalition sponsored pit stops for riders all over town. 2 weeks of rain delayed the event. Taylor Addison volunteered to run the City Heights Library first ever pit stop. She says riding a bike can take you any place.
I mean, it's amazing being able to realize, like, hey, my 2 feet can take me all the way to Oceanside and back in just one day. You know, it's tiring, but it's great exercise. It's a great stress reliever, and it's adventurous. It's fun.
By the way, that was a sloth that came along with the zoo. Now, last year, Bike to Work Day was delayed too, but because of wildfires, not rain. The County District Attorney's Office was the first in the country to bring new technology into the courtroom to solve an old problem, while at the same time saving taxpayers money and prosecutors time. These large, bulky exhibit boards were commonly used to prosecute criminal cases in Superior Court, but not anymore. Since 2012, San Diego DA's office has been putting iPads in the hands of prosecutors to more effectively show and prove their cases.
The court said, look, no more big poster boards, it's taking up too much space. And what we also found was it was really expensive to make these one-time use poster boards.
That's where the trial pad comes in. It allows prosecutors to wirelessly exhibit as much as they want, putting jurors at the scene of the crime and still being able to control what they see, even highlighting particular names, dates, or figures on the big screen TV so jurors can better focus on what's being presented.
I'll tell you right now, the public and the juries love it. They almost expect it, because when you look at the TV, movie type of prosecution, all they see is big projectors, television screens, high-tech stuff.
Deputy DA David Grappelon says it's been a game changer for prosecutors as well as people on the witness stand who can also use the technology. Taxpayers also benefit.
I did a cost analysis a few years ago, and it turned out an average murder case would cost us upwards up to $2,600 in just one-time use boards. The entire equipment that we purchase here, including the TV and the TV stand, costs about $2,600, and that can be used infinitely.
The DA's office does share the technology with public defenders, and since it started in San Diego a few years ago, TrialPad has been rolled out in several other states in the East and Midwest. Governor Jerry Brown's updated budget proposal added more money for public education. Peggy Pico finds out what it means for San Diego schools.
Governor Brown's revised budget proposal for the 2015-16 fiscal year would increase funding to California's K-12 public schools and community colleges by $6 billion more than his January proposal. San Diego Unified School District Superintendent Cindy Martin joins me with how the district plans to use the unexpected money if they get it. And Cindy, how much additional funding would the district actually expect to get from Sacramento, and how would those funds be spent?
Well, we're doing the analysis right now. This is all a proposal. This may revise, but when we're looking at about $90 million more than what we had expected, we already had decisions made around our priorities using our community-based decision-making process, and local control funding formula is the mechanism by which the governor is allocating the money to the school site. So we're to the local district. So we're using the local decision-making process to set our priorities. So we're really clear on what we're spending our money on. We're lowering class sizes. We're increasing counselors. We want to make sure we have adequate professional development time. We want a nursing model that's going to work for all of our students. So those are some of the key things that our stakeholders have been saying are really important, and we've made those commitments.
And that's the $90 million that would be coming to the district.
Well, yeah, and we need to put it in the context that we had a $70 million deficit, and this is nearly cutting our deficit in half.
Yeah, and I actually want to talk about that a little bit in just a moment. But first, one of the things I understand is enrichment opportunities for specifically for elementary school students. What would that include?
Well, we want to make sure that each elementary site will they have site-based decisions. It's not a district-wide program or approach to that, but sites have more time for teachers to collaborate, and enrichment could be in the form of music, in art, PE, but each site makes their own decision on how they want to allocate enrichment.
And I understand raises might be on the way for about 14,000 district employees?
Yeah, that was part of the tentative agreements that we just ratified with our teachers union, and then all of the employees are going to be having a 5% wage increase. That's across the board, not just the teachers union. So that's part of the commitment that we've made to our employees.
So the teachers and staff would be getting
Yes.
a wage increase.
All certificated in class.
And let's go back to this deficit issue. So the district deficit right now, remind us again what it is and how the extra money will impact this.
Well, we had about a $70 million projected deficit going into the fall, and these are all numbers that are based on projections, projected enrollment. There's still a projected decline in enrollment, so we earn money based on our average daily attendance. If that's going down, you have projections, but we were projecting about a $70 million deficit. And now, with the commitments that we have made for the 15-16 school year, we're taking class sizes down to 22 to 1 at high poverty schools. We're adding an additional staff member at high poverty schools on top of that. We're 24 to 1 at all the other schools. So class sizes are coming down, and those commitments were made. And we were out on a limb taking a big risk, and this May revise shows that we'll be able to keep those commitments and continue to move towards fiscal health and cut that deficit in half.
So the deficit is going to be impacted greatly by this,
yes,
almost in half, as you said, but
there's still a $35 million deficit.
Yeah, so my question on that then is, how are you going to address that deficit still, $35 million, when you've got possibly declining enrollment and Prop 30 taxes are going to expire?
Well, this is the great news about San Diego Unified having a voice in Sacramento for advocacy. What you see here is this May revise being so promising is we've advocated to speed up the implementation of LCFF, get the money to the schools sooner. That advocacy has worked, and you can see this May revise has shown that we've increased funding to schools or speeded up the funding. We want to continue that advocacy next year. So we're saying $35 million deficit, but we're going to continue our advocacy. We advocated successfully to have the governor use a methodology of paying down the wall of debt. That was his commitment. We said pay it down by paying back unreimbursed mandates to districts. That happened to the tune of $65 million for our district. When we advocate for specific funding sources that work for students, we've been successful, and we want to continue that. So some of our goals for this $35 million deficit are related to the advocacy efforts we have up in Sacramento.
I see. Now, when will San Diego Unified actually finalize its budget?
In June. Yeah, we're going to have our first read of our budget on June 9th, and then we have a second budget read, and then we'll finalize by June 30th. We have to be finished, which is tricky because the governor's May revise is not finalized till after that. So we make our budget needs to be finalized by June 30th, voted by our board, and then sent to the county, and then we get the governor's final budget. So we're making a budget based on a potential, you know, what the May revise is saying right now, and it's all speculation.
All right, Superintendent Cindy Martin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gaming, social media, major league sports. Lately, entertainment companies of all stripes have been investing in virtual reality. The idea is to make folks feel like they're actually inside a video game or sitting courtside watching their favorite team. But virtual reality can be more than just fun and games. KPBS science reporter David Wagner introduces us to a UC San Diego doctor who's using a cheap new headset to help his patients.
About a year ago, Melinda Person was walking to the grocery store 2 blocks away from her home in downtown San Diego. Just like she'd done countless times before, she crossed the street and stepped onto a familiar curb.
I noticed there's something here.
At least she thought she did.
And I'm seriously telling you, I thought I was stepping on the curb. I really did. You know, it bothers me to think about it right now.
The curb was actually a step away, and she lost her balance.
And then I stepped, and the next thing I knew, I was down on the street.
Person didn't sustain any major injuries from the fall, but at 63, she says it was a harsh reminder that for people with glaucoma, daily life can be dangerous. Glaucoma attacks the optic nerve. The disease has taken 86% of Person's peripheral vision.
So I only have what I can see in front of me, which is the tunnel vision. And the tunnel vision is pretty good. So when I'm looking at you, pretty much you're all I see.
These days, she uses her cane to avoid tripping on things just out of her view. She takes it everywhere, including visits to her eye doctor at UCSD, Felipe Medeiros.
And loss of vision over time.
He says falls are a leading cause of injury-related death in older people with visual impairment.
Let's go upstairs.
So he's trying to develop better ways of spotting balance problems in glaucoma patients.
We need to have tests that are more realistic, that better imitate the way we use vision. So then that's where it came the idea of incorporating virtual reality technologies to this, because I wanted to actually have an immersive environment that would better simulate the challenges that patients face.
He found that immersive environment in the Oculus Rift. It's basically a pair of goggles you strap over your face. 2 little curved screens fill your field of vision with 3D video, tricking you into thinking you're inside another space. Last year, Facebook bought the company that makes this headset for $2 billion, betting big on its promise to transform video gaming and other types of entertainment. Here at UC San Diego, Medeiros found a different use for it.
So, Mrs. Person, we're going to do this test to assess your balance.
In a recent study, he used an Oculus Rift to put glaucoma patients like Melinda Person inside a virtual tunnel. He strapped them into a safety harness to prevent any falls in the real world, and he told them to fixate on a little red dot at the end of the tunnel.
Are you seeing the red dot?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so keep looking straight to the red dot, okay?
Then the edges of the virtual tunnel started to move, making patients feel like they were being pulled back and forth through the tunnel.
So if you look at her, you will see how she's actually swaying a little bit.
Patients stood on a special, sensitive platform that recorded their every little wobble. The data showed that glaucoma patients swayed more than normal, and greater swaying correlated with a greater history of falls.
It performed better than the conventional test that we use in clinical practice.
Medeiros says with some refinement, a test like this could help doctors spot balance problems earlier, so patients can get help to prevent devastating falls.
Just put on drive.
Where? Right here?
In previous studies, Medeiros has put patients into a car simulator to test their driving abilities.
Slowly.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
Slow down. Oh, this is too real for me.
Yeah.
Virtual reality is not new in Medeiros' research. What is new is the price tag.
Oh, I'm having an accident. Oh, my goodness.
The Oculus Rift headset costs only a few $100s. That's pennies compared to what Medeiros paid for this driving platform.
Okay.
It's expensive. It costs around $300,000.
Scientists no longer need 6 figures to explore virtual reality. They've been able to use the Oculus Rift in studies on pain management and PTSD therapy.
The technology is there, so we need to find uses for this technology that will benefit the population as a whole, going beyond just the video game use.
The Oculus Rift fit into glaucoma research so seamlessly, at first Melinda Person didn't even realize it was a piece of video game hardware.
No, I'm not really a video gamer, but I have played it with the grandkids all through the time, but they're not playing anything like this.
Person knows how important it is for people with glaucoma to be aware of balance issues. She says if virtual reality can help doctors put patients like her on sure footing, she's all for it. David Wagner, KPBS News.
KPBS video journalist Katie Shulov helped produce that story. Protecting patients from a harmful combination of drugs, there is growing support for a statewide prescription database. State senators gave the green light on a bill that would make it mandatory for doctors to check the database before prescribing narcotics. Currently, it's only voluntary. Supporters say prescription drugs kill more people than illegal drugs like cocaine or heroin. Opponents say it would negatively impact patient care.
Questions are raised about the nonprofit clients of San Diego attorney Corey Briggs. The city's lifeguards union says the mayor is retaliating against them. And DENTI-CAL patients are finding cavities in the state's skimpy dental coverage. The KPBS Roundtable is tonight at 8:30. Join us.
It may take more than a leap of faith for millennials. There is a new study that shows religion is not a priority for them. Peggy Pico finds out why.
In one of the largest studies ever done on Americans' religious involvement, researchers found millennials, or young adults born between 1981 and 1997, may be the least religious U.S. generation in the last 60 years. Joining me is the study's lead researcher, San Diego State University psychology professor Jean Twenge, author of the book, Generation Me: Why Americans Are More Confident, Assertive, Entitled, and More Miserable than Ever Before. Now, Your data from these national studies on 11 million teens, I understand, ages 13 to 18, found many high school students just aren't participating in religious activities. What are some of the key findings?
So we were able to look at teens all the way back to the 1960s and compare them to what they look like now. And we found that there's been a really big decline in religious involvement and interest among American teenagers. So 2 to 3 times as many don't affiliate with the religion, about twice as many say they never attend religious services, and about 75% more say that religion is not at all important in their lives.
75% more than there used to be back in the previous generations.
That's right.
This study comes on the heels of a recent Pew Research study that found Americans with no affiliation to religion rose 23% last year compared to the 16% of people who said that in 2007. So how does this millennial shift now compared to other generations like baby boomers or Gen Xers?
And that was one of our main goals in this study, because the Pew study is very interesting, but it only goes back to 2007, so it can't really tell us if millennials are less religious just because they're young, they're childless and unsettled, or if it's really a true cultural and generational shift. So that was really one of our biggest goals, was to try to find that out. And we did find it was a true cultural shift, that millennials are less religious than baby boomers and Gen Xers were at the same age, when they were teenagers in the 60s through the 1990s.
Now, did your study find religious attitudes varied between genders and or where these students lived?
Yeah, so we found that the changes were a little bigger for girls than for boys, that their religious involvement was declining more. We found very little change for black teens. They didn't change much at all. They're significantly more religious than white teens, and that stayed the same. And then based on region, we found the biggest declines in the northeastern United States.
And what trends, or any, emerged as to why teens aren't as interested in religion now as they used to be?
Well, I think it is important to put this in the broader cultural context. And what we found over a bunch of studies is that the American culture has become more individualistic. So an individualistic culture places more emphasis on the self and less on social rules. And you can see by that definition immediately why religion might be an uncomfortable sell. That individualism and religion may not fit together all that well, because it involves joining a group, it involves something outside of the self, it involves following certain rules. So that may be one of the reasons why our religious involvement is declining.
Now, did this study address spirituality versus religion as far as the interest goes, and what that means to this generation?
Yeah, so a lot of people have advanced the theory that maybe religion is declining, but spirituality is either staying the same or has actually come in to replace religion and has gone up. But we were able to look at in the entering college students, there's a question about whether they thought they were above average in spirituality, and that actually has gone down. So fewer college students think that they're highly spiritual now compared to the 90s. So that suggests that this trend away from religion is also away from spirituality. So it's toward true secularism and not toward spirituality instead of religion.
What does this data tell you about the future of religion in our country?
Well, I think it says a lot about where our country's going overall. So we have these individualistic trends. We've also got a decline in the number of people who are getting married, and then the number of people who are getting involved in religion. So you take those things all together, I think eventually the United States is going to end up looking like Northern Europe, where marriage is optional and religious involvement is fairly low.
Are there certain religions that are growing, though? Is this specific to Christianity, or did you divide it up among, did you define the different religions?
Yeah, so we didn't look at that. We looked primarily when we're looking at affiliations among those just who said they had no affiliation. So that was our main focus, especially in just to see the people who are really removing themselves from any religious involvement. Those who said they never attend services, religion isn't important at all, that they don't have an affiliation.
All right. This Millennials religious study is published, I understand, in the Journal of +1. So congrats on that. Professor Jean Twenge, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Gwen Eiffel on the next news hour. From running a newspaper for the homeless to new ambitions for the arts in the nation's capital. That's Friday on the PBS NewsHour.
Basketball will take over Petco Park's home plate. Rival teams San Diego State and the University of San Diego square off in a first-of-a-kind basketball game at the ballpark. A hard court will be set up between third base and home plate, offering fans a chance to experience the annual tradition outdoors. Plenty of time for tickets. Tip-off set for December 5th. This will mark the 18th season the teams will face off, with SDSU's Aztecs leading 29-17. Capacity for the afternoon game is expected to be at nearly 20,000. San Diego's LGBT Film Festival kicks off its 17th season tonight at the Observatory in North Park. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando previews the festival.
This year, Film Out will showcase 30 shorts, features, and documentaries over the next 3 days. San Diego's LGBT Film Festival kicks off tonight at 6 p.m. with the documentary Tab Hunter Confidential about the 1950s movie star. On Sunday, In the Turn provides the festival with its girl centerpiece. The documentary looks to a transgender girl and roller derby.
The Vagine Regime is some of the most badass queer skaters around.
Film Out's closing night film on Sunday is the Sundance hit I Am Michael, starring James Franco and Zachary Quinto. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
We're looking at a warmer weekend if you have any outdoor plans around San Diego. Mostly in the 70s at the beaches with a mix of sun and clouds by afternoon. Likewise for the inland valleys, just a little warmer there. Plenty of sunshine if you're headed towards the mountains this weekend. Temperatures in the upper 70s. And heating up in the desert as well, triple digits. Here's a look at what we're working on for Monday in the newsroom. On KPBS Midday Edition, Rethinking Residential Space in San Diego. Supporters of the urban infill concept say it's one way to conserve our precious water supply. Join us at noon on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night and a great weekend.